Hey everybody, and welcome to a midweek / post-exam update. Basically, I wanted to touch base with you about a few things before moving into any more content this semester, because we're done with our first exam. So awesome, you made it through. However, I know that some of you are not happy with your grades because I know a lot of you have worked your butts off, and that effort, that sweat, that time that you spent preparing wasn't reflected in your grade. So I want to talk a little bit about that and how we can prepare for exam number 2. About that, one of the kind of interesting things about Play-Doh is that it gives me a chance to look at who has logged in, how often you spend on Play-Doh, how many times you click on a page, all these really, kind of really detailed reports. And so I was looking at that to see, whether or not that had any bearing on how people did on the exam. And the really weird thing is that it didn't really. That people who spent a lot of time with Play-Doh open didn't necessarily do any better than people who did or didn't do any better on the exam than people who hadn't put in a whole lot of time. And so what that means is that it's not necessarily the exposure to Play-Doh that is predictive of exam performance. And really the only thing that I could find that was predictive of that was whether or not people had had a class with me before. People that have had a class with me before tended to do a little bit better on the exam. What that means to me is that basically that if you didn't do so well on the first exam, it might just be that you're kind of still getting used to the structure of my exams. And I'm not saying that that's not my fault. I'm just saying that there's hope for exam number 2. If you didn't do so hot on exam number 1, now you kind of know what to expect, and I think that you'll do even better on exam number 2. So, with that said, the class average, the mean grade was a C. So, usually I like to try to aim for a B or even higher as a class average, but we had a C on this one. Some people made A's, some people made B's, some people made C's, some people made D's, some people made less than 60. So the grades were all over the place. There wasn't a uniform kind of curve like you normally see with grades, and so it's kind of hard to know how to react to these exam scores. With that being said, I want to emphasize a couple of things before the next exam. One is, in case you didn't last time, be sure to check out the study guides. I already had the study guide for exam number 1. Basically, Play-Doh showed me, and you can kind of see that right here. The Play-Doh report that I was looking at said that not everybody opened it up. Not everybody even really looked at it. I think that's a good place to start whenever you are preparing for exam number 2. I'm going to try to post exam the second study guide even earlier than this, just so that way you'll have even more time to kind of prepare. Basically, these things just are going to ask you a bunch of questions that are to test your knowledge. Those questions that you're going to see on the study guide are not the kind of questions that I'm asking for the exam, but if you can answer those questions on the study guide, you confidently and knowledgeably, you should do pretty well on the exam. So be sure to check that out. Second thing is feel free to email me. I didn't have anybody who emailed me about, or I don't think I had anybody who emailed me about questions for the exam in regards to course content. So nobody emailed me and said, "Hey, I don't understand this figure from sensation or from our textbook," or "Hey, can you please go over what spatial acuity is?" or "Why do we use sine wave gratings to look at visual acuity?" I didn't get any of those kind of questions, and that's okay. I mean, some people feel really confident, but I do want you to know that if you have any questions at all, please let me know. Some of you have emailed me at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I will email you back within a couple of minutes. I want to be as available as possible for you, so that way you can feel confident and good going into our next exam. All right, so the other thing, we'll get to the other things in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit more about grades. One of the other things that, and I know you can't see all these things here, these exams are shells. I'm still putting that stuff into place, and the same thing with these other chapters. So all that stuff is there, you just can't see it. The research articles, though, you can see all of these. You can do these anytime you want to. For research article number 1, those grades were pretty good. I was very impressed with a lot of the responses that I got for those there. Honestly, the biggest problems that I saw, and usually I try to give you feedback for all of these, so if it's, so you should see little things that I wrote next to your grade. So if I took off points, I try to explain where those points came from. So the biggest problems that I saw people having here was one, a lot of people tried to answer this first question, but either got the independent variable and the dependent variable mixed up, or was looking kind of at the wrong thing for one of those two things. So again, if you are reading through this and you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to try to give you hints and things like that for the second research article. So the other thing that I saw a lot of people kind of getting kind of a little bit mixed up on was the second question: what do these findings tell us about what versus where pathways? And really what I'm looking at here is this article is all about measuring cells in the medial temporal lobe, which is an area of the brain that has things like the amygdala and the hippocampus. But importantly, for what we've been talking about this unit, the medial temporal lobe, if that rings a bell, temporal, like the inferotemporal cortex. Remember, the inferotemporal cortex was kind of this unit that allowed us to recognize common objects. And so what this paper kind of tells us about the what and where pathways is that what they were studying was the identity of things, right? They were looking at whether or not certain cells in this ventral pathway, in the quote-unquote what pathway, did seem to be responsive to what the information was, not necessarily where it was located. So it kind of further confirms that. And so what I was looking for wasn't just kind of an explanation for what and where pathways were, if that makes sense, but how that and what we learned about in that chapter related to this paper. So the second article here, this is one that can be kind of fun because it's about synesthesia. I highly recommend looking on YouTube for examples of synesthesia if you're not familiar with that. It might help flesh out this article a little bit. So just things to think about. Now, going back to our grades, and if you have any questions about any of those things, just let me know about your grade. I'm happy to talk with you about that. So about working towards exam number 2, like I mentioned, exam number 2 isn't finished. I haven't made it yet. And the reason why is because I want to hear back from you about your thoughts for the exam. So you can do that by clicking on the Contact Me section. That gives you all these things. You'll notice 2 changes here. One is that I've changed the office hours. And the reason why I changed the office hours is because I don't think those office hours were working for anybody. I didn't get any visitors to my office then. And so instead of having set office hours, I want to be more flexible. So if you reach out to me and you tell me, hey, I can't make this time, how about 5 p.m. on Thursday or something like that? I can be in my online office to meet with you directly there. If that doesn't work, if you want to say, hey, I'm going to be on campus Wednesday at 10 a.m., then I will make sure that I am on campus at Wednesday at 10 a.m. so that I can meet face-to-face with you. So I'm getting rid of the standardized office hours just to give you a little bit more flexibility. Please email me if you have any kinds of ideas about when or how you want to meet. So that's one thing. And the other thing is this suggestion box that I've set up. So this is a form on Google Docs. If you click on it, it takes you to basically this survey. And in this survey, it is going to ask you a couple of questions. And the reason why I have this on here is because oftentimes, or actually every single time, whenever I get course evaluations for these classes, it's always at the very end of the semester after I've submitted final grades. That is not helpful for you, right? That is not helpful for you at all because your grades are already done. So having this up, you can leave some feedback, and then that way I can try to tinker with the course a little bit to make it work better for everybody. So for example, if you don't find that the videos are helpful, the videos that I record, that's okay. You can let me know here. If you think that they're too long, if you think that they're too short, that I don't go into enough detail, if you think that, I don't know, if you think that the exam was completely unfair, you can explain to me why. If you thought that there was something that I could change about the exam, you can leave that information here. It's completely anonymous, so there's no way that I can trace anything you type back to who actually typed it. So please feel free to be as honest as you want to. So here I have, what you like about the class, what you don't like about the class, and what you would change about the class. Just to kind of get some opinions about what the strengths of the class are, so what I can emphasize, things that don't seem to be working for this particular section this semester, things that I might be able to change. So just those are some things to be thinking about. And if you do those, I would be super appreciative. I love feedback, and I love kind of tinkering with things to get it to work better for everybody. You'll also see that there is a link here to Rate My Professor. Some of you know about Rate My Professor. I like Rate My Professor just because it is another kind of tool that students can use to try to find a good professor that works for their styles. So if you're not sure about, who is Dr. Tutor or whatever, you can find Dr. Tutor on Rate My Professor, see what other people's experiences were like, and you can figure before you even take that class whether or not his style works for you or not. And so I hope that you consider doing the same thing for this class. Not necessarily, you can do it now if you want to, or you can wait towards the end of the semester. You can go to that link and you can type your honest feelings about the class. So that way other people who may be taking this online know what the workload is like, what the exams are like, and things like that. All right, I've gone on way too long. I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but I thought this was a good moment to stop and think about exam number 1. If you have any questions, let me know. Finally, don't forget extra credit. There are several opportunities you can find here. 1, we have a guest speaker who's coming in, and 2, there is ongoing Sona participation. This is research that other professors in the department are doing. If you do this, you get bonus points for your final exam. That's all going to add up so you can make over 100 on your exam. I know a lot of people have already taken advantage of this, so keep it up. There will be more opportunities that are posted in the coming weeks. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the discussion forums. Bye.